everybody. I'm really excited to be here today. Following to what Tal and Shachar said, then this is now Startup Grind has themes every now and again, and actually February's new theme is actually Web3, as you know, and that's why we brought the amazing Adam Benayoun from Accelerator Ventures to really teach us everything we need to know to start with Web3. Hi, Adam. How are you?
I'm good. Not everything you need to know, but something you need to know.
For the next hour, everything we can know within an hour.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. Fantastic. So
I can't hear you, Liran, for some reason. I think you're on mute.
Maybe now. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I thought maybe I was the problem, but
I hope you heard when I was greeting the people and the guests and yourself, but
yeah,
we'll
now I can hear you.
Great. So how are you this evening?
I'm good. Thanks for asking. How about yourself, Liran?
Very good. So actually, you're not for almost, I think, a decade or so, and I know how amazing you are, smart, how much knowledge you have to share. And I'm personally really excited to have the chance to pick your brain a bit and learn from you. Before we dive in, I just want to share more about who you are. And of course, you'll share more, but just for everyone here to know, then Adam Benayoun is the founder of Accelerator Ventures. He founded it in 2019. It's a venture capital firm with over 250 million that was raised. Accelerator Ventures actively invest in digital assets and early stage startups to support the next generation of companies, protocols, and products building the digital native economy. Prior to that, he was Israeli partner at 500 startups and an entrepreneur for over 15 years. Adam, I want to start, if you don't mind, with actually the basics. I want to start with ensuring everybody is on the same page. So with the theme of Web3, if you can share what is Web3 as opposed to Web2, and why should us as entrepreneurs or high-tech employees or anybody in the industry or human being care about it? What should we know about it, and why should we care?
Yeah, so Web3, in order to understand Web3, we need to understand, what is the internet, Web 1 and Web 2, because it's kind of an evolution. And basically the mental model was first published by a very known VC in the States called, Chris Dixon from Anderson Novitz. And so I don't know if people understand or know that, but the internet was first conceived in the 70s and even before that as a somewhat decentralized internet, decentralized network. Basically, back then there was a Cold War between the U.S. and Russia, and basically both were had nuclear weapon, and they had a command and control. But the problem was the command and control of those nuclear weapon were completely centralized, and so in an effort to completely decentralize that command and they basically decided to open source. Start to ask a lot of researchers to basically think about way to build like a messaging system that allow packets to go through some sort of network, and they wanted that network to be completely resilient and completely decentralized. So basically, that's how the internet was conceived, and from the get-go, the internet was basically completely decentralized and basically out of the hands of those American. It was kind of worldwide phenomenon. And then in the early 90s, the internet basically allowed kind of application, and one of the best application that came out of it is basically the browser and the World Wide Web as we know it. And it has been built on top of a lot of protocol, open protocol like SMTP, HTTP, and even this video that we have is basically built on an open protocol and allowed a lot of people to basically build what we see as the internet today, right? When we think about the internet, we don't think about this network. We actually think about those applications, the iPhone, and many things that basically have been built on top of it. And so Web 1 was about open protocol, was about, connecting between people, reading news online. And, at some point, a lot of commercial company like, Facebook and Google and, Apple and many other companies basically started to build on top of the internet. And, with the time, that decentralized network that was completely decentralized in Web 1 was, very user-centric. The user was middle of that became completely centralized because, those companies wanted to give a better user experience and wanted to also control for their own good the user distribution. And so they built platforms, they built silos and those walls garden and basically built like this great and big company that today we could say that Web 2, which is the internet, is controlled by maybe 5 or 6 companies. Those companies don't want you to be on the internet, you don't exist. And so Web 3 is about decentralizing some of those platforms and basically turning some of that internet. It doesn't replace Web 2, but it does take some of those platforms and some of the protocol and basically make them completely centralized, put the user in the middle, and basically allow them to take control back some of the internet and make them public good. So that's very high level.
Yeah, so basically what you're saying that the original intention was, hey, we have this amazing communication platform for you, come and enjoy it. And then what happens is Google, the Facebooks, those big companies, you said about 5 or 6 of those came and actually obviously took over. And the original intent was to have a decentralized network, like that you can all enjoy, do things without privacy or other things. So if I return to the question, why should we care about Web3? What would be your short answer about that?
Yeah. Actually, I didn't answer that question, but
you gave us a wonderful overview. Yeah.
So why should we care? Why should we care about Web3? Well, we should care about Web3 because Web3 make the internet a better place for us. And in a world where Facebook and Apple and many other big companies basically know everything about us. So basically, they turn into a surveillance machine. If you think about it, they know even more than the CIA and the Mossad and every other intelligence body, just because they basically track everything that you do. They know exactly what you do. They know exactly where you go, and they have control over the data. And it's also very because those big companies are basically setting up the rules for everyone else, not just for us as user, but also for developers. If I basically start building on top of it, I raise money, and I have. But at some point, that big company could potentially just close the door or change the rules or just kick me out of the platform. And so, in a way, Web3 is about leveling the playing field for everyone and allowing a lot of the people to basically start interacting and building on top of the internet in a way that was actually allowed in the Web 1. Web 1, Facebook and Apple, a lot of those companies basically built on top of open protocol.
Yeah.
They didn't have to ask anyone for permission, and they didn't need any special request. They just came and built, and now the big company. And we want to make sure that going forward, we can see more and more innovation.
Exactly, and we'll come back to that. But I want to again address you and learn more about you, because again, as I shared earlier, you have a remarkable career. You were an entrepreneur, then became an investor, and you have at some point shifted more towards the Web3. So I would like to know more, about your background and mainly what brought you to focus on the Web3 field as Collider.
Yeah, so I don't know if my background is really remarkable. It's diverse. So I've been an entrepreneur for about 15 years. I've built a couple of companies. My last company was in the open source field, and so I come from a developer background, and I've always been drawn to to developers and building stuff. And then at some point, I remember when I sold my company in 2015, I basically decided to join 500 Startup as a venture partner, basically an Israeli partner in Israel, and made a couple of investments, probably 20 to 25 for about 3 years, seed checks to to pre-seed and seed, $50K to $250,000. but I think it was not until, so I've also been exposed to crypto since 2011, but I just knew about Bitcoin. I did some mining, but nothing more than that. I think it was around 2016 when I read about someone trying to build on top of Ethereum something called the DAO, which was a
Mhm.
VC on the blockchain that really captivated me and brought me to a place where I started reading a lot of white paper and asking other entrepreneurs, what is this thing that we call the blockchain or the cryptocurrency
Mhm.
industry? Because I knew Bitcoin, but I didn't know there was like a big industry that was as big as other niche, and I think for me. Because I was, I had a computer since age of 8, sorry, and then when I was 14, I connected for the first time to the internet. I was probably one of the first kids in the neighborhood to have an internet
Mhm.
access. I kind of basically was, I witnessed the whole internet history. The
Mhm.
internet history we just
You
described,
lived it.
from
Yeah.
yeah, I lived everything from the
Yeah.
moment where there were like just one website and Google, launched from a dorm room, and then later on GeoCities and a bunch of other stuff, and yeah, ICQ and AOL and everything. It was, for me, it was remarkable. And I think in 2016, when I looked at cryptocurrency and looked at Web3, I was amazed about how parallel in terms of, where the internet was going back then and where the internet is
Mhm.
going right now, Web3 is going right now. I was amazed about how there were a lot of things that I could compare between the two. And so the first thing that happened is I had goosebumps, and I was
Mhm.
like, I was like, oh my God, there's something here.
Oh my
And then
God.
for a couple of months, I went into the rabbit hole and I started studying it as an, and I don't think I went out of the rabbit hole for a long time. I mean, I'm still in there, studying and discussing and I believe this is the future. So right now, so at some point I came back to 500. I told them, look, I want to invest on behalf of 500, but they couldn't for regulatory reason, and so they gave me a waiver to invest personally. And after 2 years of investing personally as an angel investor, I came
Mhm.
back to them and I told them I'm leaving. I'm starting my own fund, and I'm gonna go and do Web3 24/7
Yeah.
because this is my calling.
And I remember also on our preliminary call, you mentioned the phrase rabbit hole many times, like how much you started looking at Web3 and just dove in, and there's so much to learn, and yet it's still evolving. And for the favor of again, just making sure everybody knows what we're talking about, then there are a lot of different terms that we've probably all heard. NFT, DAO, you mentioned, metaverse, of course, blockchain, cryptocurrency, Web3. So if you can possibly address the main ones, maybe that I mentioned, and kind of share what are they, or how do they all kind of come together, if at all?
Okay, so I'm gonna put the metaverse on the side because, as I told you earlier, I don't know what the metaverse is.
Okay.
People say that the metaverse is like a persistent world, but then I say, well, this is the internet, right? Because I disconnect from the internet, I come back, the internet is still here, people are there, and so in a way, the metaverse is still something very amorphic for me. And and when I don't have a really good um, uh, on something, I just don't invest in it. So we don't invest in the metaverse. But if we take a few step back, um, there's a term called blockchain and there's a term called cryptocurrency. And to understand the relationship between the two, it's basically what we call Web3. Web3 is about decentralized network, the ability to basically make those network resilient and completely independent and interoperable. And the only way to do it is to basically make them in a way to make the blockchain as resilient as possible with some economic incentive. If you take Bitcoin, for example, Bitcoin is resilient because it runs on millions of computers. The ledger is on millions of computers, and there's millions of miners who are mining and securing the network at all time. And they do that because they're getting rewards as part of the network. There's no incentive for them to not do that or to basically because then they're losing money. And so, Bitcoin and Satoshi Nakamoto, who started Bitcoin a long time ago in 2009, basically had a breakthrough in humanity in a way I see it. Basically, he conceived a network that would achieve consensus no matter what. So basically, there's a lot of people out there we don't know each other, we never talk to each other, and they reach consensus every 10 minutes, thanks to economic incentive. So this is like a very interesting model that allowed those blockchain to become resilient and basically decentralized network. So this cryptocurrency, you cannot talk about cryptocurrency without talking about blockchain. You cannot talk about blockchain without talking about cryptocurrency, because those two are basically intertwined. Without a cryptocurrency, there's no resilient blockchain or no decentralized blockchain. In terms of NFT, the terms say non-fungible token. So a cryptocurrency is a token, or it could be a non-fungible token. A token is like a dollar. If I have a dollar and you have a dollar, it's interchangeable. I can give you the dollar, you give me the dollar, and the same dollar will be the same dollar. So this is a token, it's interchangeable. But a non-fungible token is basically a physical object. It could be a phone, it could be an in-game asset. And if I have an NFT, which is a bottle, physical bottle, and you have an NFT, which is a physical bottle, those two physical bottles will be different. And in a way, if you think about it, 99% of everything around us are basically non. And so NFT are very interesting because they encapsulate, physical or non-physical items. Token are also interesting because they are the reward and the economic incentive of blockchain. And without them, we cannot have a resilient and decentralized network. Are there any other terms that I missed?
So we talked about the
A
metaverse.
DAO.
The DAO. Yeah.
So this decentralized autonomous organization is very interesting because in a way, you can think about it as a company. There's a company, there are shareholders, there's a CEO, there are people taking decision, and it's usually centralized. Now, how do you make that a decentralized organization? So in a way, it's a DAO. So every blockchain or every decentralized network or every project on the internet in Web3 has a community around them, and those community are basically they're token holder. They hold the token, and so in a way, they are both investor but also user, and they could be also evangelist or employee for that specific network. And so DAOs are like those autonomous organizations that are not really company. They're not registered anywhere. They're like those community on the internet, but suddenly they have ownership of the community they own. So let's say Startup Grind could be a DAO. You and me and other people in Startup Grind, we could have tokens in Startup Grind, and we would evangelize Startup Grind, and we do events, and we do a lot of other stuff. And if Startup Grind will also earn money, we could potentially get a share of that revenue because we are part of Startup Grind, and so we could be user, and we could be investor. We could be decision maker, once a month or once a week or once a day. Maybe there would be some decision that we have to make, and then with those tokens you can actually vote. And so it's an evolution. It's how do we evolve this community into those decentralized organization that make decision together, and then basically also partake into this wealth that is being created in the internet. Something that never happened before because we have those regulation and corporate and everything is centralized, even in the decision making. So it's an interesting concept.
So that definitely goes back to what we said earlier about the original intention of internet and how the DAO, for example, really allow us to hopefully create a different society, ones that everybody can take, maybe more democratic, I would even say, or one that people could participate. Having said that, we talked about NFT, and obviously NFT is the most hottest word today. In they say that only 2% of the world knows what it is, but within those 2% or so. And we probably all here heard of, the CryptoPunk that was sold in insane, like unreal amounts. And there's a lot of on the one hand hype, on the other hand some bluffs around it, and some of it actually is truth. But you've seen so many technologies around, and assessed so many technologies and innovation throughout your career. Do you have any tips for assessing or addressing such new trends or NFTs and the like? So kind of help us to assess them and understand if they're okay or valid for us.
Yeah. So regarding the CryptoPunks and everything else, I just want to say that that the Mona Lisa and the Picasso and every other art will be sold, and will be worth, you know, 100 millions or even more than that. So, you know, I think it's completely fine as long as someone see value in something and they want to pay for it, and it's a scarce resource, then why not? I personally don't, you know, I've not purchased any crypto punks or whatever, but I do see in NFT, you know, a standout that we can actually, you know, help Web3 and help, you know, a lot of projects. Now regarding you know, innovation and technology and how do we assess, or, you know, tips or whatever. I just want to remind everyone that basically, you know, there's been like of innovations in the past that people thought were fad. You know, the internet. I remember people were talking about the internet like it was a fad. That was just past. It's nothing, and we can all agree that the internet has basically changed humanity. I mean, we're a different world thanks to the internet. I mean, everything has changed because of the internet. I mean, if I wanted to ask you, how much do you think the internet is worth? There's no way to actually put a price on it, because it's in, you know, it's insane the amount of value it has created and also unlocked. And you know, if I go even back in the time, you know, long time ago, people were riding, you know, horses, and at some point there were, you know, there were well, all the movement was using horses, and at some point someone came with an idea of creating a car, and there were all different cars. There were a car with you know, one wheel, with two wheels. There were gas and propulsion engine, and you know, it took a lot of time before people actually started to ride in car. At the beginning, people thought that those cars were crazy, and why do I need a car? And so I think, you know, in the short time, we tend to hype things, and we overvalue things, but in the very long time, we tend to underestimate. And so it's very important to understand, you know, as innovator, as investor, we need we need to be very optimistic. We need to have an open mind about things.
And you mentioned that this is, in your view, is a revolution. You know, you changed again. You shifted at some point towards Web3. Collider Ventures does a lot of not only investing, also you have an accelerator, and then, you know, you do education and so on, and we'll talk about it. But I mean, for you, this is the next best transformation, global transformation. So how do you see this revolution expected to change the technological world? Like, what do you think we should expect in the coming years from that?
That's a very tough question, because I really don't know what's going to happen in the next years. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that Web3 will probably change the world, not just in one niche. It will, you know, change finance. It will change real estate. It will change, you know, many section, and many. It's not one niche. You know, it's not like cyber or fintech or anything else. It's basically removing one element that we've been transacting for, you know, thousands of years, which is trust. And for the first time, we've been able to create networks that are completely trustless. You know, I don't trust you. You don't trust me. We trust the math, right? I trust that 1 + 1 will always be 2. And so the moment you can remove the trust and you can basically transact with anyone in the world in a trustless way, you open up new capabilities and new way to move value from one place to another that has not been unlocked for many years. And so I think it's a step of function in terms of how we look at the world. It's very hard to know what's going to happen in the future. But I can tell you that you know, I'm spending my time studying and talking to a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of VC, and a lot of you know, investor. And I'm here because I know this is where the next big value will be unlocked. It's like being in the 90s in the internet and knowing that something will happen. But you know, in the 90s, there was no Facebook, no Twitter. You know, if you would have told me that would be billions of people connected to the internet and talking on the platform, whatever, I'll tell you, there's no way we can, you know, we could actually do that. So it's very hard to understand what's going to happen, you know, in 10 years or 20 years. And I think also, in a way, the more we advance, those innovation cycles take shorter, you know, they become shorter. And so we make those leap forward at a faster pace.
So with that in mind, with what you said in mind, we are in Israel or innovator or any entrepreneur from anywhere in the world that's probably listening to us right now. We like to be in the forefront of technology. We like to be, the ones that are setting the tone. And with that in mind, what can you suggest to innovators? I mean, we talked about some infrastructure, but what could be the next one or two steps that we can take as startups, as innovators, to start impacting or building the Web3 world?
So I'm looking at what we're good at in Israel, and cyber is one of them. So I think the intersection between cyber and Web3 will be very interesting. Sorry, just
Yeah.
because you know um, Web3 is also immutable. On the blockchain, if I send you Bitcoin and I enter, for example, the wrong address, then someone else will get my Bitcoin, but I will never retrieve them. And if someone hack my computer and then steal my cryptocurrency, so I'm losing them forever. So cyber is very interesting, but in a way, I think what we need to understand is that if we compare the advancement of the internet in the 90s and the level of adoption of the internet in the 90s and the level of the adoption of Web3 today, which is how many people are connected to to Web3 with wallets or transacting, then
Yeah.
we're in the 90s, so it's very early. And when you're that early, the way that I see it, you really need to start building the infrastructure and the protocols and the things that are very, very low level. And then the next thing that I see that I think will be interesting will be to build the abstraction layer that connect between those infrastructure and the users. And so developer will need to build SDKs and abstraction layers and all kind of different developer tools for other developers to come and build those applications for those users. And we need better interfaces. We need better user experience because it's very hard today to transact on Web3. If you want to connect to Ethereum and you want to do some transaction, you need to connect to Ledger. You need to use, or sometimes you need to open a wallet.
Complicated.
It's very complicated.
Yeah.
A lot of people are not doing that on a day-to-day basis, and if they're doing that using MetaMask or other wallets that are user-friendly, some count of being less secure, and that's a good thing. So, think that we're so early that we need to start building all the infrastructure we know that exists in Web 2 for Web 3. Some of them
Yeah.
could potentially be replicated, but in some way we also need to start building new infrastructure. So I think we need to start building from the ground up, and then later
Yeah.
on, once we have those infrastructure and we have more user, then we could start really building those application and those consumer app to blockchain and Web2 users.
Yeah. And I think what you just said is immensely important because that's how the next few steps, and that would be the opportunities that lies for you entrepreneurs. So Adam, I want to ask you to put your investor hat now. And as an investor, again, in this unknown and evolving Web3, when do you think, or how do you assess companies in order to invest in them? And what are you looking for in companies in the Web3 sector?
I think it's not very different from Web2 or any other company. I mean, at the end of the day, um, I think Michael Eisenberg from Aleph used to say that there are three types of investor. There are investors who are investing in people, there are investors who are investing in technology, and there are investors who are investing in markets, right? And he said, I'm an investor who doesn't really understand technology, and I don't know where the markets will go, and so I just great people. And I think investing in great people is very important. You want to invest in the best founder out there. Building a startup is up and down, and I've been doing it for 15 years. And you want to invest in a team of founders that are working well together, that are resilient, that no matter what you throw at them, even if you take them down, they'll just get up and keep working. There's another 75 in the startup where I work, and he used to tell me, look, the only thing, the number one job of a startup is not to die. If you don't die, then you eventually you'll be able to be successful. So first, we're looking at the team. Now, in Web3, the notion of team or founding team could be different, because some of them could be remote, and maybe they even didn't meet each other. Some projects have anonymous founders. You don't really know who they are, or pseudonymous founders. People who don't want to get known for various reasons, maybe for regulatory reason or whatever. And the second thing is also, understanding the market and where things are going. And the technology here is very important because it's so early that that people will write on a white paper, things, and what looks great in theory might not actually work, in practice. And so the way that we're looking at, it really depends where we make investment from. If we make an investment from our labs, which is an incubator, all we need to do is we look at the founders, they come up with an idea, and then, based on the founders, if we like them and if we think they're good founders, we'll invest in them because it's very early, there's no product, whatever. If it's a leader later, then it really depends on the step and the phase that the company is at or the project is at. But if there's a product, then we look at the product, we look at the community. It's very important to understand that in Web3, the product is the community sometimes. And so we want to make sure that there's some sort of traction, that people really get excited about what the founders are building, and et cetera, et cetera. So we look at the founders, we look at the product, we look at the markets, we look at the technology, we look at the community, which is in a sense a proxy to customers. And some of the time there might be some revenue, but we're not really thinking in terms of revenue. And obviously there are tokenomics and other stuff. So if there's a token involved, we want to understand how the token would be used, what's the utility of the token, how the value capture would be done, and then many other things that are very centric to Web3, like validation, nodes and stuff like that don't really that are not in Web2, that you can't find in Web2.
Thank you for that. And I'd like to ask you more about the Collider Accelerator. So you have Accelerator, you have a venture, a VC. So share more about what is Collider and how we can possibly approach and enjoy from what you do.
Yeah, so Collider Venture is a fund, and our newest fund that we are currently raising will be $100 million fund, and several ways to make investment today. So the first one is basically investing from Collider Labs. Collider Labs is an incubator that will usually invest between $100,000 to $250,000, even a little bit more than that, and then we'll usually take between 3 to 5% of the equity or the tokens. And then the next thing that we do is we basically help the entrepreneur, building the product, coming up with a go-to-market strategy. Sometimes we will help them, hire their first engineers, all the way to actually getting to a point where they have a story and a deck, and then they can go and pitch for the round, and we'll put together fundraising round for them, and then we'll introduce them to other investors, and then they'll usually raise a seed round afterward. And so it's usually a process of 2 to 6 months, where basically we're I wouldn't call that an accelerator or an incubator, but it's we're trying to personalize an incubator for them. So we try to find out what they need help with, and we'll help them with, and we're very hands-on in the process. So that's Collider Labs. Now, once they graduate from Collider Labs, or if they're a seed stage project or company, and they already have raised some money, or they think that they're not a good fit for the Collider Labs, then we have Collider Ventures. Collider Ventures is basically a seed fund investing at very early stage, could be pre-seed and seed, all the way to Series A, or before the token launch. And we'll invest anywhere between $1 million to $3 million, and we'll try to lead round. And our target ownership will be around 10% tokens or 15% equity. And so that's why we want to lead round. We want to be able to have enough ownership. If people know how a VC fund works, we need to make 30 investments, and then we believe that 1 or 2 investments will become so big that we have enough ownership in that company to return the fund to our own LP, to our own limited partners. And so we have Collider Labs investing at the incubation stage. We have Collider Ventures doing pre-seed to Series A, and then we have a third bucket that we invest from, which is called Collider Growth, which is basically follow-on investment into company or into project. Usually, what we do is we'll invest directly into purchasing the token if it's a liquid token, and sometimes we'll even go and purchase token not just from company we invested in before, but also company we missed in the past. So we could actually we missed some company, or we said no to some company, and then they made significant progress. And then once they launch and there's a token out there, then we go and purchase from the market, or we purchase directly from the treasury. So in a way, we have the ability to invest from ideation all the way to when the token is trading, basically after the IPO, right? And basically we have the ability to invest across all stages.
So if you can again just summarize, we got a question to summarize those options again. So you're saying from an ideation, or if you can just give us like the bullet points of your
So it's ideation or incubation, anywhere between $100,000 to $300,000, and then we'll usually take 3 to 5% of the equity or the token, and then we'll be very hands-on and help the company in anything they need until they raise the next round. The second bucket will be seed round to Series A. We'll invest anywhere between $1 million to $3 million. We'll try to lead the round and take any ownership between 10 to 15%, depending if it's token or equity. And then we'll invest later on if the project is live and trading and there's a token out there, and basically do follow on from that bucket. And that's basically we'll basically invest at any stage possible.
Great. Thank you for summarizing that. A few more questions for you before we'll address the audience's questions. So guys, this is your time to start writing your questions. So the next question to you is, what drives you, as a human being, as an investor? I mean, when you wake up in the morning, what's the motivation, the driver to do what you do?
Oh, that's a good question.
Trying to be,
Yeah, I think I have I want to make impact. I want to change the world to be a better world. And so through my years as an entrepreneur, and even now as an investor, I don't call myself an investor. I call myself first most an entrepreneur and then an investor. I wanted always to change the world, and so make a lot of impact. And I started as an entrepreneur and started a few companies, but then I found out that I could actually make a greater impact if I would invest and help other entrepreneurs to fulfill their mission. And so in a way, be in the background and basically help those entrepreneurs fulfill the mission to change the world. And so that's basically what drives me. The second drive is probably my kids. I want to show them, what they could do. And I think we're as parents, we're a good proxy, and so they look up to us. And so I remember looking up to my parents and see my dad doing things, and a lot of things that I do today are basically because I've learned from him. And so I want to do things in a way that my kids will be proud of me.
Love it, and that's so important and so beautiful what you just said now. So thanks for sharing that. And Adam, and I know you also have a weekly talk, and there are different ways to contact with you. So if you can please share this information with us.
Yeah. So if you guys if you follow me on Twitter or you look for Collider Ventures, you'll find out that every Sunday at 9 p.m. we'll have a space on Twitter, and so usually we'll just discuss everything related to Web3. So usually we'll go over what happened during the week, and then we'll talk a little bit more about concept or about about specific network or protocol or whatever. And so every week we're doing like a 1 hour talk in Hebrew. It's very important because we want to make it accessible to the Israeli market. And so sometimes people will just come and say, hey, I want to ask question. And so it's very much like this without the video, and it's on Twitter. I'm gonna write in a second what my
Yeah.
what's my Twitter account. But basically, if you follow me, then you'll get a notification every Sunday what we'll be talking about, at 9 p.m. So that's number one. We are investing a lot in education, and so we're doing from time to time, some events that are invite only, but we want to basically connect between entrepreneur and and builders and product people and engineers, and so we'll do those events from time to time. I will probably send to you some more information you can pass by email later on, maybe tomorrow, after tomorrow. And we'll also send like a list of links of things that could be useful for people to get situated into Web3, because there's a lot of information, a lot of people talking about it, and sometimes it's overwhelming. And last and foremost, I mean, last and but not least is you could also send me an email. My email is adam at collider.vc. I'm gonna write it here, and people will be also forgetful. They'll forgive me if I don't answer right away, because sometimes it could be overwhelming to get so many emails. But if someone has an idea of something in Web3 or anything, I'm more than happy to field any question, or even a first email. Worst case scenario, I'll just connect them to another person on my team that could help them, and could talk to them on the phone, whatever. We're basically, as a fund that invests in Israel, but also outside of Israel. Our number one job is to make sure that every person want to get funded in Israel in Web3 get a shot at talking to us. Doesn't mean that we're going to invest in all of you guys,
But
but
you're welcome to try. You can try.
we'll listen to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think as a VC that again took this sector, the fact that you're also educating about it, that's so important for everyone. It's kind of sharing is caring. Obviously, this will help the Web3 evolution, and obviously can help everyone and yourself by doing so. So we have a few questions which are specific about some of the things we talked earlier. So I'll go to Iran's shift question. He asked, can you try envisioning the link between DAO and metaverse? Although I know you're not really fond of the metaverse, but if you can envision any link between them, the DAO and metaverse.
It's not that I'm not fond of the metaverse. The question is that it's too amorphic right now for me, at least, and I don't really understand. What is the metaverse? In a way, I said earlier, metaverse could be the internet, right? Because it's a persistent world where people connect and disconnect and come back, and and it's still in there. I think Web3 and metaverse probably will work together. I mean, in a way, let's and probably doesn't really answer the question Iran is asking, because I don't know how DAO and metaverse will connect, but I do know how metaverse and Web3 will probably connect, and then after that you can make the link to the DAOs or whatever. But in a way, you don't want the metaverse to be controlled by one company. Facebook said, "Oh, we're going to build the metaverse." Great, you're going to build this meta world, or this digital world for us, and then you'll control it. You control that, like you control the internet for us, and you know everything about us. And then what happened was when Apple will actually build the metaverse. So there's going to be like 10,000 metaverses that don't talk to each other, and so 10,000 worlds, and it doesn't sound to me like a good future. I think a better future would be a metaverse that is completely open source and completely open, and everyone could potentially connect to it. And you have a wallet, or you have an identity that is connected to yourself, and you can buy in-game metaverse assets or whatever. You can trade there, and every person come in and build on top of the metaverse. So in a way, I think the metaverse, if this is this like digital world or persistent world, I think the metaverse needs to be like the internet, right? Completely open, completely free to build on top of it, not controlled by anyone. And the only way to do it is do it the Web3 way, and not allow Facebook and other big company to build the metaverse the way they want to build it, because then they'll control it, and we'll have a shitty. We'll have a good world with a really great experience, but I think in the end, as user, if something is free, remember you're the product, right? And so I think that we'll just end up being the product and not get what we need to get out of it. So that's I would say that's my answer. How DAO are connected to it? Well, community are for me, DAO is basically a community that kind of self govern itself, and so in a way, you could think about the metaverse. If the metaverse is the world, and DAO would be like community that just coexist together, and they'll self-govern themselves. Maybe a DAO will just connect together in order to to buy the Empire State Building. The DAO are basically a great way also to pull together resources and then purchase something of significant value, like the Constitution, for example. And so, in a way, I see DAO as community, or DAO as like way to self community together.
Thanks for that. And we have a very interesting question by Nathan Weisband. How can Web3 and blockchain assist our personal identity online so we can increase our trust? And you talked a bit about trust earlier, but how can it support us in increasing our trust online?
So it's a really good question. Although I don't know exactly what Nathan mean by increasing trust. Maybe he can add some more information, and then I'll be able to answer precisely. But the problem today is that in Web2, all of our information is basically stored into centralized databases into this company. And so basically, I have like 1,000 accounts with my email, and it's stored in 1,000 different companies, and I have no way to actually go to each one of them and ask them, what kind of information do you keep about me, which is what the GDPR compliance is trying to help with. But also, I don't have any easy way to actually tell them, what, remove or erase all the data about me and disconnect me completely. Web3 and blockchain could actually change that by allowing you as a wallet, or as a profile, to have all your data in your in your own wallet, whatever. So think about it like I could create an NFT that has all that information stored into that NFT, and that NFT will be accessible by different services, and they could pull that NFT and ask all kind of different questions, or get access to different information based on what I allow them to. And then only in that in that way I could potentially allow Facebook to basically pull me my information, my private data, whatever, my photo and everything. The thing is, Web3 allow you to own your own personal data. Web2 allow you to own your own photo and everything else. And so that's not, it's not just about increasing trust. It's about allowing me as a user the freedom to move from one service to another. So today, if I want to leave Facebook, I have no way to take my graph data. I have no way to take my photo in an easy way. And also, I basically losing access to a lot of my friends and everything else. Web3 and blockchain will allow me to move from one service to another, like we can move to their bank account, right? I can, if I want to leave, my bank account or my bank provider, I can do so with a single click of a button, and all my information get moved from one bank to another. Can
you hear me?
Web3, yeah. Can you hear me, Iman? Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. I'll basically I'll just wrap up by saying that Web3 basically turned the whole model of privacy.
Are we okay?
And
can you hear?
Yeah.
Can you hear me? And Adam?
Yes.
Yeah.
Also. Okay, well, technical problems happen. Sorry, guys. We need to move to Web3, right? That would be more stable, more
Yeah, I
distributed.
I actually don't know if Web3 will actually
So,
solve our problem.
So I heard when he answered Nathan's question, but I think for now, guys, I'm sure that you have gained some interesting information about Adam, about Collider Venture, about this Web3 world, and kind of things that we can try to anticipate of getting from it and possibly doing it. And I think the main thing that came to my mind when Adam was speaking is really the opportunity for us as entrepreneurs, as innovators. What can we do? How can we become a part of this revolution of this new Web3? So on the one hand, definitely communicate with Adam, with Collider, go to their Sundays talks, learn, as he says, go down the rabbit hole and really learn about it. That's very, very obviously useful, specifically in a new industry that is just now being shaped out. And the other thing is really what touched me was the protocols, the infrastructure, that now is the time to do it. So I definitely encourage you to do that. I'm not sure if Adam can hear us now.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great.
You can hear, and Adam, is he with us?
Yeah, I'm with you, Liran. I don't think you can hear me for some reason.
Let's give him another few minutes. I know we're about to finish in a few minutes, but I would love to see if he can see us or hear us.
You can hear me. Can you hear us?
Yes, he can hear us. So maybe we can hear you as well, or
yeah. So yeah,
okay.
I guess
we'll just we'll say thank you. So I'm sorry that we. Yeah, tell.
Thank you so much, Liron. Thank you so much, Adam. Very educational and inspiring. I've learned a lot. So thank you so much for your time and expertise. And
sure.
We will have the recording of this event on our page within an hour. And hope to see you all soon. So thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Tal. Thank you,
Liron.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Adam.
Thank you, Tal. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.